Chapter 6. Hard Work for Horses. The winter was very cold and wet. The cab drivers tried to keep warm with hot soup. Little Dolly liked to bring soup to Jerry. One cold day a customer arrived. Jerry gave his soup to Polly.
"Where to?"
Jerry asked the man.
"Finish your soup first, driver,"
the man said.
"You are cold and need something warm inside you."
Jerry said,
"Thank you, sir."
Then he said to Dolly,
"Here is a good man. He does not think only of himself."
Most customers did not care about the health of the carters or horses, but this nice customer cared. His name was Mr. Grant. One day Mr. Grant and his friend were in our cab. He saw a carter whipping his horse. He shouted at the carter to stop. The name of the carter's employer was on the side of the cart. Jerry wrote down the name of the carter's employer. Mr. Grant's friend said,
"This is none of our business. Why worry about other men's horses?" "Do you know why there are so many problems in the world?"
Mr. Grant asked his friend. His friend did not answer.
"It's because too many people look after only their own business,"
Mr. Grant said. I was happy to have nice customers like Mr. Grant. I was also happy that I worked for Jerry, because other owners often hurt their horses. One day I was waiting for Jerry in town. A horse came by. She was pulling a cart. The horse was Ginger. She looked very sick. She couldn't walk well. She looked very sad. "Hello, Black Beauty," she said. "You're the only friend I ever had." I wanted to talk to her, but she couldn't stop. The carter whipped her to make her keep moving. Later that day, I passed a dead horse on the side of the road. That horse was Ginger. I was very sad. That poor horse had a hard life, I thought. Many horses had difficult lives. Jerry owned me, but some carters did not own their horses. These drivers had to work the horses hard to pay back the owners. Other jobs were hard too. Butchers' horses had to go very fast. The customers wanted their meat to be fresh, so they didn't like to wait. Bakers' horses carried a lot of weight. The horses would become very weak. Jerry was kind to me. He fed me good food, and we rested every Sunday. Our work was hard in the winter, but Jerry was kind. He always helped people. One day, a poor young woman came up to us. She was carrying a heavy child. "Please help me," she said to my driver. "I must take my child to the hospital."
"It's a long way to the hospital," Jerry said. "You can't carry that child all that way. Take a cab."
"I have no money for a cab," the woman said. Jerry drove them for free. We took the mother and her child to the doctor. The doctor helped them, and the child got better. At Christmas and New Year, the work was hard. We worked in the cold and wet weather until very late. One night, Jerry and I took 2 young men to a party. We waited outside with no shelter for many hours in the cold wind. Jerry got very sick. He coughed and could not keep warm. The 2 men came out of the party very late. They were laughing. They did not care about Jerry. Jerry was so sick that he could not speak. His cough was very bad. He was very sick for many months.
"You'll get better," the doctor told Jerry, "but you must find different work. You will die if you work again in wet and cold weather."
Jerry could not afford to pay for my food and shelter without working. He had to sell me. A few months after this, my master sold me. My new owner was a baker. He loaded the cart with sacks of flour. He made me pull very heavy loads. One day, a woman saw him whipping me. "Why are you whipping that horse?" she asked.
"He's lazy. He won't go up the hill,"
the baker said. "He's not lazy," the woman said. "His load is too heavy and the reins are too tight."
"A loose rein doesn't look good," the baker said.
"Loosen the rein," the woman told him. "It will help him." The baker loosened the rein. I was able to pull the load up the hill. I was now too old and weak to pull a heavy cart. The baker sold me to a cab driver. He was a very cruel man. He whipped me all the time. I became weaker and weaker. I wanted to die. One day, a man, his wife, and 2 children got into the cab. I could not pull the cab. I was too weak. The driver whipped me very hard. I did my best, but I could not pull the cab. I fell down. The driver said,
"He's going to die. You'll have to get another cab."
The next day, the driver sent me to the knacker's yard. This is where horses go to die. I was sure that my life was over.